Thank you for joining me here. I am really excited to chat with you today and talk about self-awareness, such a general kind of aspect, but also if it weren't for self-awareness, I wouldn't be able to talk about anything that I talk about on my channel, and I wouldn't have any of the growth I've had. So I wanted to share a little bit of what my experience has been with gaining and learning self-awareness for myself. And hopefully by doing so, you can deepen your own self-awareness. Please, as you're listening to this, and after, if you're reflecting, I would love to hear any of your thoughts, your tips, your advice on your own self-awareness journey. Before I get started, my name is Amy. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with me. Welcome back if you've been here before. This space together is a place for us to feel safe, to share and to gain further self-awareness and to remember who we are on a deeper level. All of my videos talk about things like that. And it's no coincidence that my whole topic is kind of on that today, self-awareness. Honestly, just the term self-awareness, we all have our own idea of it, and I believe it has to do with the depth of our own individual awareness. So the way I would define it is how conscious each of us are of our own selves, our egos, our consciousness, our beliefs, our programming, our conditioning, our emotions, all of it. If we're not actually doing anything to pay attention to it, there's not much self-awareness. How could there be? If you're not actually looking at something, you're not going to see it. I felt like I had a veil lifted when I started to really dig in to my own self-awareness. And that started for me when I stopped drinking. That has nothing to do with how it needs to start with anyone else. I'm just letting you know because that was major for me. I also didn't even know I should stop drinking. When someone said something to me one day that prompted me to look it up, I was shocked because I was like, wow, this is describing me, but I had no idea. And so becoming aware of that was me deepening that self-awareness, maybe even just getting some for the first time. So self-awareness is very much a journey of ourselves to who we are at our core, our souls, removing the conditioning that we have all been born into, the beliefs that have been created because of the societies we grew up in, what our parents and families believe, the people around us, our caregivers. It is our emotions that we attach to but aren't even ours. And that awareness comes from actually seeing that and being able to stand in humility and remove the ego, because we're not our egos, but we think we are, and we think we are until we're aware of the fact that we're not. We are not going to be able to see our own awareness until we start looking at it and seeing with humility and being able to actually not be defensive about it and allow ourselves to actually look at the embarrassment and the shame and the anger and all of it, because it's those things that stop us from having any interest in doing it, because there's this idea of, or there's a part of us that convinces us that we're good, we already know, we've got it figured out. And the thing is that no one does, and no one has even a little bit of it figured out until they're willing to fully look at themselves. And this is done without blaming anybody else or making any excuses about it. I've talked about those two things in a few of my videos, and those are two pieces of gold that will help you start gaining that self-awareness. Start to pay attention to how often you are making excuses for the things that you don't want to do. Oh no, I'll do that tomorrow. I don't want to do that right now. I'm too tired. You know, whatever excuses you come up with for why you're not doing something that you know, if you admitted it to yourself, might actually be really good for you. Those are excuses. The other big thing is blaming people. And just a side note, I only talk about this because once I became aware of the fact that I was doing these things myself, it changed my life. So blaming others. Are you blaming other people for your circumstances. This is not to say you've done anything wrong. So, remove that. Tell your ego to push that aside. You are not going to be able to grow into your own self if you are blaming others. This is blaming your boss for not paying you enough money. This is blaming your coworkers for doing certain things that are taking attention off of you or affecting your job at all. This is blaming your parents for things that happened to you, or things they did or things they didn't do. This is blaming your siblings, blaming family, blaming the other driver, blaming anybody, blaming, any kind of blaming. If you are doing this, you are not looking at yourself. And the thing is, you can continue on the experience and just not blame at all. And just say, okay, what if I took responsibility for where I'm at right now? I see myself. I don't want to stay stuck in this victim mentality. I want to actually become aware of me. That will help you gain more and more self-awareness. And this comes with humility. Now, another huge topic on gaining self-awareness is looking at your beliefs. This is such a big one, and it's hard to even know where to get into it, but I'll try to start with a few examples. And one of them, I was reading in a book last night how they were able to give this comparison of when, let's say, you were raised religious. You have these beliefs because this is what you learned growing up. This is what the people around you told you, your church, the people at the time who you trusted. That's what's going on in your mental body. But then there's a part of you inside, how you feel, your emotions, that tells you, I don't know, something doesn't feel right about that to me. I don't like how that feels. Something about this doesn't resonate, but you dismiss it because you think to yourself, well, no, I learned that must be what's right. I trust those people. So here is where you can actually start to see beliefs that you're carrying that aren't yours. Again, this isn't about blaming anybody else. This isn't about having to be upset or being completely on the other end of the spectrum as anybody else. This is simply about you being able to pause and take that step back to observe and say, maybe I look into this a little bit. Maybe I explore other aspects of this belief and see what resonates most for me. This can be applied to everything. That's just the example I saw in the book that felt really resonant for me. And also, I was raised religious. And one of the first areas of my life where I started to actually start thinking for myself and saying, I don't know if I believe this, was around the church. I never felt any kind of connection going to church. I just kind of looked around and did what people were doing, wondering, oh, it seems like they have such a great connection to something, a higher power, but I don't feel anything. I must be doing it wrong. As I started just being curious about other possibilities, I'd pick up one book and I'd learn about it, and it was fascinating to me. And then I'd pick up another book and another book, and one of them would tell me a new topic I'd never heard of or an idea, and then I'd look into that. And it just helped me expand my mind and just learn for the sake of learning, to open my mind, to be more open-minded, to not just be so fixed in what someone else told me I'm supposed to feel or do or believe. We are all individuals here having our own unique, beautiful experiences. Being self-aware is being aware of who you are, not who someone tells you you need to be, not what someone else tells you you need to believe. And you can do this from a more loving place than anything else. So allow yourself to start gaining awareness to the things that you maybe are questioning. The moments when you say or do one thing, but inside you, something feels not quite right. Look into those things. You're so cute. I'd take a photo of you. Self-awareness is discovered through creativity. That is such a beautiful way to start tuning in to yourself, to who you are. Another thing that happened for me about 10 years ago when things started really shifting in my life was I felt like I don't really have any hobbies. It was soon after I finished college and had some extra time and lived in a city where I didn't have family and I had friends, but I wasn't drinking, I wasn't going out, I wasn't hanging out the way I used to, so I didn't even know how to fill my time. And that was a huge awareness too. And thankfully, my curiosity led me to saying, maybe I'll try something new, something I've never done, and allow myself to just be the student. We are forever students if we allow ourselves to be. We're meant to be. Doesn't matter how old you are. Allow yourself to keep learning and exploring. For me, some of it is just being outside in nature, connecting to the moment, to the feeling of the air and the beauty around me. I've taken so many different art classes, and yes, I do this alone. I don't care. I love doing things alone. I took my sister on her birthday to paint pottery, and we still laugh that we barely even talked because we were so focused on just creating. So for me, it is so fun to do it with people, but it's also, let this be a part of your experience if you're someone who doesn't like to do anything alone. The only one who cares that you're alone is you. No one else is looking at you and judging you, and if they are, it's their own insecurities. Sign up for a pottery class. Look on Groupon. Is Groupon still a thing? Look to see what kind of events they have or classes that you can take in your area. Sign up for something online. Keep your video off if you are feeling a little uncomfortable about doing something, but start to discover who you are by trying things you've never tried before. Look up a new recipe, bake if you've never baked, cook a meal if you've never cooked before. Try something you've never done. This is such a beautiful way for you to learn something new about who you are and lean into the idea that these things are not all constants. You might love an experience you're having this season or this year, and next year at this time, you might not be doing it at all. That's okay. You don't need to become an expert at everything you try either. Just allow yourself to get open to it, because you could go to a woodworking class and someone there tells you something that they tried that you'd never heard of, piques your interest, and then you go there and try that. You just don't know. This is how just kind of getting out of your own way and allowing yourself to be fully in the experience. And again, this is where you're leading from the heart. It is your heart that is you. This is your soul, your higher self. So allowing yourself to connect to that. So I'm sitting in my basement right now, and I probably shouldn't show you what's going on down here because it's a full-on art studio and it's a little messy, but it's an art studio. I bought my house, repainted the basement, made a bunch of updates on it because it was really questionable. These walls behind me were a red, and then the trim was a purple, dark red and purple. And I just wanted something a little brighter because it's the basement, and created this whole art studio. And since then, I have been creating all sorts of different items that were not on my radar, got my sewing machine out again, opened an Etsy store. I didn't even think about doing any of this. This was not a plan. What I had intended to do was simply connect to my creativity and learn more about who I am in that process. And it's been such an amazing experience and such a great opportunity for me to be with me, to be in that space of just experiencing my own creativity in such a pure way, in such a connected way, and then being able to share that with the people who are receiving the items. And there is an exchange of that energy, and it is beautiful. And I like to think that when I set the intention with each piece that I make and then send to the people who are ordering them, that they will receive exactly what they need that day when they open their box with their new item. I believe there is an exchange in that. We are all connected. And when I am making something that's coming from such a high place in me, I fully believe that the person receiving it feels something, even if it's subconscious. And this is how we get to share and pass it along with people, even if we're not directly saying it. A lot of times it's shared in a way that isn't verbal. If I were to get into my definition of self-awareness and what it's done for me at the deepest level, it is that I have been able to remember who I've always been before the world told me who I was supposed to be. Self-awareness is what led me to my spiritual growth. Maybe some people define these as two different things, but for me, it has been peeling back these layers of belief that's not mine. Peeling back a layer of an emotion I've been carrying because I thought I needed to stay attached to it because that's what I saw my parents do or whomever. It's peeling back something that I hadn't learned as a child and I was too embarrassed to look at, but I finally looked at it. It's peeling back judgments that I had that I finally learned weren't me. That didn't resonate with me. That's not how I want to be. That's not how I want to make somebody else feel. And as I continue to peel back these layers, and I'll always be peeling them back, but I've peeled back enough that I can talk about it now. As I continue this journey, I am closer and closer to my soul and to my higher self and to myself in its purest form. And I believe that that is my spiritual being part of me. And I am here having this experience as a human. And a part of that is recognizing that we're not just our egos. That is a part of it. Because our egos help us create our own identities. But this world has gotten to a place where it's run so much on ego, on fear, on hatred, on judgment, that it's not serving us as a whole. And I am such a big believer that the whole is made of individuals. Many people want to say, well, I'm just one person, I can't make a difference. That's an excuse. That's an excuse to really not do anything, not take any responsibility. But I believe that that whole being made of individual people can be greatly, greatly impacted by one individual at a time, becoming more aware of themselves, which will lead to choosing love over fear more and more and more. And the more people who are doing that and sharing that with the people around them, the more we will start to see love leading. And you know what? The worst that happens is it just stays the way it is. And we all know that that's really just not so great anymore if we're looking at it as a whole. I want to be somebody who is adding to the good of the world, who is setting an example wherever and whenever I can, who is helping people feel better by simply being around me. I hope that my energy healing, my meditations help you to even just have one moment of finding some peace, one moment of feeling a little bit more comfortable being who you are or discovering who you are, remembering who you are. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. All you need to do is remove the things that are already not you, that you think are you, so that you can start living from a place of who you are. That's just buried and forgotten. After saying all of this and sharing, it kind of is making me feel a little bit emotional. That is how I know that showing up and turning this camera on and talking about these things and going through everything I've gone through that has been really, really freaking hard. But going through it and being able to talk about it now and maybe helping one person, inspiring one person, helping one person to maybe just not feel so bad, I know that that is what it is all about. That is what matters. And it also reminds me that the more I consciously align with my own soul and become more self-aware of myself, there's an energy. Just like in my energy healing videos, there is an energy that comes through, and it's able to come through because of the work I've done and continue to do, and setting the intention to really be able to speak from such a higher consciousness. There's like a form of channeling even in me sharing this, and that's what makes me emotional, because I know this isn't just me, and what a beautiful thing to be able to be here. It just makes me feel really grateful to be able to actually communicate all of this and share it and be in a space like this with you and feel like I have the opportunity to give back a little bit. Because there have been so many people who have been the inspiration for me to gain my own self-awareness and to help pull me out of some really tough places I've been at. So thank you for being that person. Thank you for being here and allowing me to share and just listening, because even me just sharing is a part of my own healing. If you got anything out of this, I really hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel, giving me a thumbs up. It helps me so much. I love doing this, and I hope you will be back with me next time. Bye.